So the King Cool here with Chris from the Burrito Brothers. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fine, and I'm thankful that you're having me on here. It's a cool thing. Appreciate it.
I'm actually excited to talk to you, man. I mean, I've been a fan of the Burrito Brothers for years, and I just want to catch up and see how this setting of the band came about.
Uh-huh. Well, the latest incarnation, and as you no doubt know, this band has gone through probably more personnel changes than any. It's in the Wikipedia entry, I think there's over 60 names or something like that. But it's also nearly that many years. It's started way back in '68. But I came on board as a full-time member. I sort of was floating in the wings for a number of years. It's kind of how everybody gets into this group. In fact, there's never been an audition. It's always somebody leaves and the remaining people know who the next right guy to get is, and it's done that over and over and over. I came in about 2009, and the first album we made was called Sound as Ever, and that was Walter Egan and me and Rick Lano and my brother Fred James. And then Walter had so many other things he did. You know, he's a famous solo artist in his own right. He kind of chose to move on, and Fred kind of took over the role he was doing, and it was kind of interesting there for a while there because there were two actual brothers doing most of the, duet style singing and stuff, and Fred playing guitar. And then Fred left after a few years also, and we came out with the album 2 years ago, Still Going Strong, which is essentially this personnel now. And this is an even better new album. I think it's the best album we've made, at least in my time in the group. I'm sure that this brand new Notorious Burrito Brothers is myself on keyboards and lead vocals and a little bit of guitar, a little bit of harmonica. And then we've got Tony Paoletta, the wonderful pedal steel player, just world-class, inventive guy. I guess you could say following in the footsteps of Sneaky Pete. And then there's Bob Hatter on guitar, who also on this album played the bass. And then Peter Young does a lot of the harmony singing, and he's the drummer. He's also very adept at the board. He's the recording engineer. So that's the four of us as we stand now.
No, so this is almost like a starship situation where the band keeps on going and the name slightly changes, but the music's still there.
I suppose so, yeah, because all the variations, the subtle variations on the name that all include the word burrito in it, are widely considered to just still be that band. If you go to that Wikipedia, if you start with the page that's headed the Flying Burrito Brothers, it then goes through the fact that in the 80s, when they moved from Southern California to Nashville, they dropped the word flying and were just simply the Burrito Brothers, as we still are now to this day. And then there was even the variation for the better part of a decade that called itself Burrito Deluxe. And in fact, the first one I'm on was just the Burritos, but it's now the Burrito Brothers. The story behind that was actually that when Burrito Deluxe called it a day, when they kind of decided to fold in, I think it was about 2008, somewhere in there, that was head up by Carlton Moody, very talented singer, songwriter guy. And they finally had enough, and guy in England for the head of a label called SPV Records. His name is Del Taylor. Contacted my brother Fred, who's got a pretty good reputation as a blues music producer here in Nashville. And he'd placed a number of album projects overseas, and Del knew him. And he asked Fred what he knew about the Burrito Brothers. He was aware that the Burrito Deluxe had reached the end of the line, and said, there has always been the next version. I mean, over 50 years, they've reconstituted every time it looked like maybe they were done. And it was always from guys who were in whatever previous lineup there was, and then, some new guys, some sort of new blood. And they came up with the idea back in, I believe it was 2009, that Del Taylor talked to Fred about the Burrito Brothers. And Fred took it upon himself to try and get the earliest still surviving members. And that would have been headed up by Chris Hillman, who looms quite large in the history of the group. He and Graham Parsons started it and co-authored everything. And he was also he got calls into Rick Roberts and Bernie Ledden and Al Perkins, because Sneaky Pete was deceased. And then the closest to an original era drummer he could think of, with Michael Clark deceased, was Gene Parsons. And all those guys, to a man, said that they would do it if Hillman would. And then Hillman decided it wasn't for him. He didn't care to. The way he put it was that his career was comfortable enough. He liked the way things were going. It seemed that for him, the history of the Flying Burrito Brothers was a little bit of a headache, and that if he was going to try to, rekindle past glories, it would not be the Burrito Brothers. It would be the Byrds with Crosby and McGuinn. And that sure makes sense. So, and he had said that he'd gotten really familiar with the fact that somebody was always going to do it. So it didn't really bother him. He just asked that the group not use the word flying, that he felt that differentiated his sort of proprietorship or something. And that was fine with us, and what happened was, when that quasi-original version of the band couldn't be achieved, Del Taylor at SPV was not deterred. He told Fred, okay, well, then who if not them? Because there have been new reconstituted versions of the Burrito Brothers all through the years. And that's essentially where we arrived at the answer. Del needed us to secure the trademark rights to the name, and I had never done that before, but they were available, and it wasn't that hard, since we could show usage and enough association with it and all that. We were the guys at that point in time, and then Del also wanted to sort of okay each proposed member, and he was cool with Walter Egan, me, and Fred, and Rick Lano. And so from that point on, I've been band leader, trademark name owner of the group, and just carried on. And our intention is, it's an honor, and our intention is to do the best job we can of upholding the legacy.
See, that's one thing I appreciate about classic rock, is that a lot of bands have different lineups and formation, but the music is still there. And they keep on going and doing shows and putting out new albums.
Yeah, the music's definitely there with us. That's the whole motivation. I mean, it's not like it's some magic carpet ride, gold mine. I mean, the funniest thing I could hear is for someone to say, "Oh, they're just trying to cash in on the name." It never was a cash cow. The whole motivation is that it's worth carrying on. It's all those guys in the earlier versions of the band and all that era is worth remembering and carrying forward to every time we play live. It's something of a great remembrance of those guys. Although it's also absolutely a currently existing, ongoing creative entity. We kind of split up a live performance. We tend to have the songs we've come up with in the past 10 years, the favorites there, and then the most classic ones from the history of the Burritos and Flying Burrito Brothers.
Now, the album came out in the beginning of the month. I love it.
Yeah, I think it came out on Friday the 13th, I think. I've seen different dates. There's somewhere, somebody reported it being out on the 27th of this month, which is just yesterday. But it's, I believe it's essentially worldwide, and so it's coming out on different dates in different countries and things like that.
Well, I just want to say, I listened to it, man. It was a fantastic album.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Now, do you think that with everything that's going on in the world, do you think that helped or caused a hindrance on the release?
I'm not sure. I feel more capable of this not hurting us than a lot of people. I feel a lot more sorry for a lot of people who have to try to go to their job and still go out into the world every day. I'm thinking we would have liked, on the heels of this album, to get some tour dates booked and stuff, and so that's on hold. But our number one interest right now and focus really is to make a work of art, to make an album and hope that it gets received well. And so that isn't lost during this. In fact, our representative in England, Bob Boiling, seems to feel that it's a silver lining inside a really dark cloud, that he called it, we've got a captive audience. What can they do other than listen to music or watch shows on TV or something? Maybe there's a way that this doesn't hurt us, and even, I don't know if you could say works out in our favor, but doesn't hurt us.
You see, that's exactly what I meant by that. I was saying that, it's a terrible thing that the news took away from the press that you could have gotten, but the fact that everyone's stuck in the house, what are they going to do? Exactly. They got.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, going forward from this, are you guys starting to try and plan dates of touring? How does that even work?
Well, at this point, it's pretty just kind of saying, we'll wait and see. I don't think you could really plan anything. I think it's crazy when there's some people acting as if this might just be a couple weeks. But I don't see how that could be.
That's my thoughts exactly. I see shows that were booked for this month that are getting rescheduled for June, but it's just like that's a crapshoot right there. What are you going to do when you got to reschedule that?
Yeah, that's wishful thinking. Yeah. It seems. I don't know. I'd love to see it pass, but how's that going to happen? What's going to bring that about?
Not only that, you got to think of it. If you're, let's say everything gets back in order by May, early June when they start touring, do you really want to be the first?
Probably not. Yeah, probably not.
It's going to take some time before everyone feels comfortable again going outside,
Yeah.
It's an experience right now just going to a grocery store, let alone being with a bunch of people in the concert.
Boy, no kidding. I did that yesterday, and I was, overprotective. It kind of feels awkward, but it's like I'm not hurting anybody if I put on a mask and gloves and carefully get on out of there. But boy, I bought a ton of groceries yesterday in hopes of not having to go back.
Yeah, that's the thought, man. You go and you get as much as you can and just think what do I need?
God, I felt so sorry for. Think about that. Here I am, all obsessed about trying to stay clean and hope it doesn't go wrong. And it's one little quick visit. Imagine being the people who are going, whose job is to be there every day, all day. And Well, I count my blessings. This just can't be easy. This is a tough time.
Oh, 100%. I mean, when I do have to go to a store, I'm rushing through as fast. I'm protected the way you
Yeah,
are. I'm rushing through. I'm dodging people. You know what I'm saying? If I see
yeah,
something in an
the
aisle, I'm walking
distance.
around.
Yes, the distance. Yeah,
But yeah, I can
yeah, that's
imagine
right.
being that cashier that's got to go through the still probably hundreds of people that come through there a day.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Hopefully, you know, they're gearing more toward sturdier, younger people who it's probably less life threatening to. My father is still alive. He's 90 years old, and he lives in an old folks home kind of place. It's on lockdown. Nobody comes in there except the staff.
Right, right. Yeah, my sister's the head of a nursing home up where I'm from, and they said no visitors allowed in. Every worker has to get their temperature taken before they walk through the door to make sure they're able to get in there. It's,
Yeah,
it's real tight.
none of us have ever seen anything like this. It's mind blowing.
Oh, it's completely insane. I mean, schools are shut
Yeah.
down. I mean, I have a young son, and he's excited because it's no school, but he doesn't really know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It just occurred to me that I'm sure there's going to be people doing it. That there could be some music, you know, a song about how strange all this is. Although that's so much easier said than done. It can be so contrived and so weirdly perceived, received. You know, well, it's overwhelming. It's got all of us worried.
See, now that's interesting that you said it. I mean, with you as a musician and you have all this downtime, I mean, I understand you just put out a new release, but are you making music during this time? Are you writing
Yes,
songs?
we absolutely are. Every time we've ever had an album, we were already working on the next one. This, in fact, this Notorious Burrito Brothers was initially started a year ago, almost pretty much exactly a year ago. And we were hoping we could kind of knock it out in 4 to 6 months, and then it would stand as a 50th anniversary of the group. The first album, Gilded Palace of Sin, was released in 1969, so 2019 is the 50th anniversary. And it actually is that in our hearts because we finished it last November. It took longer than we thought because we cared so much about it. And then we right away got a deal. This guy in England, Bob Boiling, shopped us to SFM, Store for Music, our label, and they had really liked our previous album, and so they were on board with it. But the wheels don't go instantaneously. You know, here it is 5 months later that it finally is released. So every time we finish one, you know, like sometime at the beginning of this year or so, already kind of thinking, well, what do we do for the next one? And we're trading off. It's quite a long time now you've been able to send music online and stuff like that. So we just record individual ideas, share sketches, I call them. I guess that's as good a word as any for a song that's not yet done. We don't get to sit together in the same room with our guitars and write, but you still can. We're sharing ideas back and forth and commenting and offering suggestions. And so that's what we're able to do even in this isolation.
See, what an interesting time that we live in where you're actually able to do that, where everyone's in their own space and still able to perform, talk. You know, I mean, it's almost like the Jetsons where you can see each other on phone calls if you choose to push that button.
Yeah. We got a real cornerstone one. You know, this album has a suite, which we thought, you know, the Burrito Brothers, even though there's a country flavor to it, a leaning into that genre, and has a pedal steel guitar, it's really a rock group. It's a progressive, inventive group, not a basic, traditional country. You know, and in fact, in the first place, they had all this wild, phased out and wah-wah, any little process they could come up with on the pedal steel and crazy lyrics and hippie, content, and it was marketed to the rock audience. You know, Graham was crazy about the Rolling Stones. It was never at least according to marketing and what you would file the album under genre, it was rock, not country, and that's how we see ourselves to this day. It's like there's an inventive spirit about it. There's a willingness to try some outside the box things, and so we got this suite on this album. Also, the last song, "Wheels of Fire," is very much a what do you call it, overture kind of thing. It's all sorts of different references. It closes out the album as a grand finale. But the Sweet Love's River is about 10 minutes long. That's obviously not a 3-minute radio country song. It's something other, more progressive. And we liked the whole way all of this stuff came out. So we're thinking, well, let's kind of use that format again. And we've already begun working on the centerpiece, the suite that we will include on our next album, and it's called History, which I think is not a bad idea when you consider that this is a band with lots of history.
That's
but
right.
at the center of the lyric, though, it's more like people who love each other and have been together a long time. They share history.
Yeah, man, that's a great concept. I'm really could dig something like that.
Might even be the album name. I don't know. That remains to be seen. But I like the Notorious Burrito Brothers name, which was a nod to the fifth album by the Byrds, which was called the Notorious Byrd Brothers. And should I tell them a little bit of background about that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. That was right before Graham joined the Byrds for the one and only album he's on, and he almost dominates it. Sweetheart of the Rodeo was the Byrds' sixth album. Well, the fifth is also absolutely a classic. Many consider the Byrds' greatest album, and it's called the Notorious Byrd Brothers. And they got the name from the Flying Burrito Brothers, which was a loose bar gig group that just had changeable people, which kind of foretells of what happened. But it was headed up by Barry Tashin from the Remains and Ian Dunlop, Graham's friend from England. And they would just have guys like, you know, what a fruitful time in L.A. They'd have like Leon Russell and Jesse Ed Davis and Delaney Bramlin, all these illustrious people. Graham Parsons was one of them. Given night. And that was just being jokingly called the Flying Burrito Brothers. And when they were at one of the sessions for that Byrds album, they thought that name was funny and clever and tossed out the idea of calling the album the Flying Burrito Brothers by the Byrds. And it ended up morphing into something a little more logical and turned into the Notorious Byrd Brothers, which of course you can hear the similarity. And so for us to now, all these years later, call an album the Notorious Burrito Brothers is a nod and a tip of the hat and a remembrance of those guys who really are the groundwork, the template for everything that followed in the Burrito Brothers.
Now, I'm looking at the website here. Are you guys going to do any music videos for the new album?
We did one conceptual one. It's called Acrostic, which is very, very, I was going to say proud. I sort of hate to say something like that. It sounds egotistical or something, but we're very happy with how that one came out. An acrostic is a poetic lyrical tool, and when I came across that word a year or so ago, I didn't know what it meant, so I looked it up, and I throw this out there for whoever's listening to do the same. Look it up, and then follow the words of that song and see how it's got a hidden message. And because that seems kind of special in that way. So I don't know if anybody's ever done that before, and it's pretty hard this far into musical history to come up with anything new. Most of it's some version of a hybrid, and that might come close. And so we made a conceptual video of it. It's not performance. It's not us. It's us playing the song and singing, but it's visuals that work with things being said in the lyric. And then we also have the 50th anniversary performance of The Gilded Palace of Sin, which is, it was done at the Grand Parsons Fest in Nashville last November. And we were asked if we would play the entire album start to finish, which is a daunting thing, actually, and a little bit strange in that, you know, we're not the guys who did it. There's only one of them who's still alive, and we don't pretend to be, and we don't take credit for that, but we are the perhaps closest thing. We were asked because we're the still going Burrito Brothers, and it felt an honor to do it. It was really nice. I think it came out well. But the other ironic aspect of it is that we had just finished this out. We have new material that we're very proud of, and there we were playing somebody else's songs. So it's but it was cool. I really think it came out very nicely. So that's on the website. We never claim to be anything other than what we are. We're the guys carrying on. But when we get accused here and there of being a tribute band, that's just dead wrong. Tribute bands do exclusively only material that was recorded in the first place by other people. They also don't carry the same name as the group. And we have always been making new albums. When we play live, half our show is stuff that really was first done by these exact people. And so it's a mix. I mean, there's a tribute element to it, but that's probably true of any band who's lasted a long, long time.
Well, like I brought up in the beginning of our conversation, I mean, there's so many classic rock bands that don't have the same lineup. I mean, for a perfect example, last year I went and seen Foreigner, and it was the 45th anniversary tour, and they're talking about the band members and who was there, and they said, our longest member in the band, he's been with us for 25 years. And it goes to say that none of those members on stage.
Yeah, that's still not even, yeah.
There's not one.
Well, yeah.
So, I mean, you know, it just goes to show you there's so many different.
I think what we have going for us, at least I gotta believe it, you know, you wanna wish the best for your own career and stuff, is that, we're the farthest thing from one exact iconic lineup ever having transpired. This group, more than any you can find, was always changing. In fact, the first group stole the name from that other group. You know, and there's no two albums in a row with the same personnel. It's bizarre. It's just this ever morphing thing. So each point in time, each new album can be assessed on its own merit, I think, and I believe we've righted the ship after some off years some time back. It feels real good. I mean, it seems to me that the assessment of what you hear and whether or not you like it is to listen, and if it's your cup of tea, if you enjoy it, good. You know, the only real valid argument for acting as if we're not the correct guys, as if somehow we really stunk, but we don't.
No, you guys are fantastic. I mean, I love what you guys evolved into.
Thank you. I do too. I'm thrilled with it. It feels so good. I just hope we can keep the ball rolling and get some nice responses. We have run across in the past the curmudgeonly Graham Parsons fan who seems to think that no version of the Burritos is good if it doesn't have Graham, which is kind of crazy since there's 49 years here and still going without him. He was only on the first two albums. But,
well,
That
Well,
is part of. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
you know what it is. I mean, this day and age, there's so many people that think they have a voice because of the internet and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
They're going to
Oh
find a
yeah.
way to complain about something one way or another.
Yeah, and the opinions are so strong. It's like it's not necessarily complaining as much as announcing that this is how everything should be because I think so. It's just crazy.
I just find it terrible that the fact that people who listen to the music for years, been fans forever, have no qualms about going on the internet and tearing apart something they loved for their entire life.
It's cruel and way out of line to be passing judgment upon accomplished, experienced musicians. I've written reviews in my life. I'm a part-time journalist on the side, and my Bible to that is to not have the nerve and ego to claim I can tell somebody whether this album is good or bad. What I do is point out the elements of it, and or I can clearly say what I like. But this judgment call that so many reviewers do, where they declare that something's bad, is just horrific. It's like there's so many examples in the history of popular music where some big-brained reviewer really hurt a sensitive musician and took it to heart.
Yeah, I mean,
it's wrong. It's just wrong.
I mean, what people don't realize is that, you know, they may listen to a song for a second and think they can form an opinion. They don't know how long it took for the musician to make what the words mean to them.
My father called those people the no-talent leeches. He said, you know, they couldn't in a million years make a recording the caliber you guys are doing. And yet they think they can tell the world whether or not it's good or bad.
I mean, I find it crazy. I mean, for anybody who's on anything like that, I say try and write a song yourself. Try and make a lyric.
Yeah, no kidding. It's strange. That's part of I think the second sort of added on thing about this name of this album, the Notorious Burrito Brothers, alludes a little bit to for those who sort of claim that there shouldn't even be Burrito Brothers anymore. Well, here we are. We're kind of notorious, like outlaws in a wanted poster, you know. But yeah, it's some crazy stuff.
Well, I for one, I'm glad that you guys are continuing. I'm glad you guys are still making music. I love the new album. Like I said, I can't stress that enough.
You know, another thought about that's just crazy is, if you're a big fan of some previous lineup of the Burritos, that should never be your reason to reject the band still going, because the fact that the band is still going continues to breathe life into the work of we praise everybody who's ever been in this group, you know.
Right. Well, like I said, I mean, if you were a fan, if you loved something for so long, I mean, I don't understand how you can tear down anything that represents that, you know?
Yeah. Luckily, I don't think that's coming around this time. It feels really good. I'm so tickled that felt like it was kind of against all odds that we got a brand new record deal, because we're older and you know, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, they don't even do that anymore. It's all just downloads and people doing their own websites and blah blah blah. But I've always believed, and still do, any of that is not as legit as actually getting signed by a label.
100%. I believe that 100%.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, anybody today can go ahead and do something in their basement and call that an album. I mean, unless you actually get signed by a label, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, we made the mistake. I've seen the downside of it. Our previous album from 2018 is called Still Going Strong, and I was very proud of that. That was a good album. I think we've topped it with this one, but we recorded it at the Junction Studio in Madison, Tennessee, which is headed up by John Sturdivant Jr., and he kind of convinced us that we ought to just do it ourselves. It's so good, it'll fly and all this, and it's just not that easy. We don't have all the publicity wheels and all this stuff in motion, and we're not a mega touring band. We play scattered dates and kind of like it that way. It makes them more special, and we're good at it, and we're not just in a tired grind. And I now have something like 800 CDs in boxes because we ordered no, I probably have about 600 or 700. We ordered 1,000, and I think about three is all that really moved. We tried to pitch it. We tried to sell it to a label as plan B. Like, hey, this isn't working. That we're trying to do our own thing with it, our own marketing. And you know what they said? In fact, this label we're on now liked it a lot and said, I'm sorry, but we're not going to touch it because it's already regarded as having been released. It's available in certain outlets. It's been put online. It's been put in iTunes, for download. We can't treat it like it's a new album that's one of our babies. It has every appearance of having been released. So we were kind of screwed on that one, and we've done it a lot better this time.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, it was a lesson learned, and
yeah,
see what you can do from the future. You learn from past mistakes.
Well, the more we do, the more it still might be possible. There's reissues and things, and I'd love to see somebody pick up on that album someday. Go ahead and release it as some sort of reissue or something.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I mean, that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
Now, for the fans that want to follow up, they want to buy this new album, they want to listen to it, stream it, download it, whatever they do. Where are they going to go? What are they going to do?
Well, I keep saying for the ones who, like me, probably older ones, like to have an album, hold it in their hand and not just download, get the CD. I keep aiming people at Amazon. I've had them say that, well, we just send order it from you and know that it kind of stays in-house and all that. And I thought, no, that's not what we're into. This label was wonderful to us to put this out, and we don't want to try to make an extra couple bucks here and there. And besides, the more people buy it in the marketplace, the more it has some chance of the numbers looking better for the label. And so I just tell people Amazon. Plus, of course, right now, I'm not into making trips to the post office.
Right, 100%.
So, and then as far as download, I think all the regular places, iTunes or wherever people go, probably Spotify. You know what? I haven't checked that, but these guys, SFM, I keep stumbling over that because our previous label was called SPV. Weird, but they really have their organization together. They're getting it out in the world. They're promoting us. This call is thanks to them putting a promo guy, John Lapham, calling you, and it's all nicely done. So I'm sure they've got it covered that you can get it download wherever you get downloads. You probably should point out, since I'm not having real details here, is that it's called SFM Records, which stands for Store for Music. And you can Google that and look it up.
So what I'm looking at here is if you actually go to the burritobrothers.net, it's going to be a one-stop shop for everything that you need. It's going to have information on ordering the album, ordering past albums. You got some videos up there. Looks like some links to get some nice merchandise.
Yep.
And then hopefully, once the world gets back on track, we're going to see some tour dates up there.
Yeah, I hope so too. And speaking of the website, I like to aim people at it. I might just repost again on Facebook and ask them to go look. Under the blog, there's some pretty good stuff. The site itself has a page that's the timeline, and that's pretty interesting because it gives each year since 1968 and what transpired, who came into the band or who left or what album came out or whatever. And that's pretty cool. And then the blog, we recently put a song-by-song info page that tells us, because I realized it might be expecting too much for me to think that everybody out there is going to know the kind of details we know about the history and this and that. And so we actually explained the different references, like Wheels of Fire, the finale on the album, it's just chock full of them. There's all these little, what amazed me is I just last night heard a brand new Bob Dylan thing. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, man, his first song since 2012 with the 17-minute.
Yes. Yeah. It's fabulous, and it's this rambling thing that has all these references. I thought, well, that's what we did in Wheels of Fire. Is name check different songs and artists and lyrics that are indelibly on most fans' heads and hearts, and then it also finds a way to name check each of the songs that was on the album prior to it being the last single. And it was just kind of fun. It was a creatively different way to organize the lyrics to a song.
See, what I like here is I'm taking a look when you mentioned it there. I mean, I've never seen an artist go into such detail about their tracks, and then I see there's another blog post where it says there's many secrets to find in the new album. And it goes through and let you, that's pretty interesting. It's going to
I think there's one, I might need to double check because I get warned, don't let them get you. I think there's one where I'm kind of addressing people that got under my skin. There's a friend of mine who puts on that Graham Parsons shoot. He calls them the, quote, haters, unquote. And they're just these few people, boy, and they've gotten fewer and fewer. When we first had this new alignment back at the beginning of last decade, around 2011. They're all this, what business do you guys have calling yourself the Burrito Brothers and all that? And they've gotten less and less and less, but they never completely go away. And, why somebody feels it important to insist that we shouldn't be doing this. It just is, I can't even wrap my head around it. So I've written responses and I've been advised, don't even go there. Leave it alone.
Yeah, all you're doing is adding more fuel on the fire. I mean, you start back and forth with one jerk. I mean, it's so easy. It's really so easy. Yeah. You'll feel good about it.
But we get to do it. They can't. They're not gonna. It doesn't matter what that jerk thinks. That's not gonna make us stop.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, let them go back to their whatever their regular day to day is. I mean, you're an accomplished rock star. You don't got nothing to prove to nobody.
No, I don't think so. And I think especially in this group, it's an anomaly already. There isn't an exact, like the craziest, most uninformed, dumb comment along that line I've ever seen was a guy saying, "Oh, so just anybody can call themselves the Burrito Brothers now? I guess I'll just find 3 other guys and call myself the Beatles." It's like, what in the world are you talking about? If you looked up the history of the Burrito Brothers, you would see that it's just constantly changing. As I said before, no 2 albums in a row, same people. The Beatles, on the other hand, are the biggest thing ever to happen in music, and 4 iconic guys who are absolutely irreplaceable. There's no comparison.
Just like I said, man, people got too much time on their hands and they want to go ahead.
and furthermore, it never, ever was 4 guys, 5 guys going, "Hey, I got an idea. Let's now call ourselves the Burrito Brothers." It always was something that just morphed from the last and carried on. Oh, this guy's gone, so we get this guy in. We've never even, I don't know if I mentioned it in this interview earlier, but the Burrito Brothers have never had an audition. When somebody leaves for whatever reason, we always know, the group always knows who a good guy to get is. There's somebody kind of figuratively in the wings. I was that once.
I mean, you guys are constantly evolving. I mean, it shows in the music. It shows of what you're doing.
Yeah. It wasn't just a whim one day. Oh, well, I guess we'll be the Burrito Brothers. That's ridiculous. I was actually led into it, as I explained by that guy, Bill Taylor at SPV Records.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you're part of it. I mean, you're fantastic.
Thank you.
Sound, and
Boy, I am
I love
too.
what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Me too. I'm thrilled with it. You know, and I see it as, you know, we all, if you're a creative sort, you've got dreams and aspirations, and certainly I came from Wichita, Kansas, where I was born and raised, moved to Nashville to seek a career in music, and you know, I'm old now, or older, and uh, that window of maybe getting to be some hot new star has long passed, and so in older years to have an opportunity to take part in a legacy like this, it's a wonderful opportunity. It's about as good a thing as I could have wished for, you know?
Well, it's fantastic, man. Really.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time. I enjoy talking to you. The fans that are listening here, take a run over to the burritosbrothers.net and you can get everything you need on the band. And take a look at this blog. It's going to really let you give the album a second or maybe even a third listen to by going through the track by tracks and the explanations and looking at what the secret meanings are to certain songs.
Yes, please do. Yeah. I think that enriches the experience.
100%. Like I said,
Yeah.
it'll give you a new take on the album for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, sure, it has been nice talking with you.
Well, hopefully in the future I get a chance to see you guys live. I'd love to see the show. So.
Yeah, we're setting up tour dates for 2 weeks from today. Yeah. Oh well.
We'll see what happens. Hopefully.
Well, I wish everybody stay safe. I hope we can see this thing go away, and hope you stay safe and healthy. And just a tough time.
You know, hopefully in 2 weeks I'll be able to leave the house. Let alone go to a show, you know?
Yeah, although, you know, it makes sense to steer clear of everybody because that's how it can spread.
Hey man, I'm happy. You know, I get to do this work from home. I get a lot of downtime, killing a lot of Netflix.
Yeah. Like I said before too, I feel like my line of work, and especially now with this, the Burrito Brothers having a brand new album and the interest in carrying forward, there's enough to keep my attention. You could do a lot worse, so I'm grateful.
Definitely, man. Well, I hope in the downtime we get some new music out of you, and
history.
Keep in touch. I'd love to see what transpires from you guys.
Well, thank you very much. I hope to get to talk with you again.
All right, Chris. Take care of yourself.
All right, you too. Thanks.